The evening of September 21st, 2025 seemed like any other night at Putin's luxurious guest house nestled on the pristine coast of Crimea. The air was crisp with the salt of the Black Sea, the glittering lights of the venue reflecting off the water. Inside the sprawling complex, Russia's top officials, military leaders, and business magnates mingled over glasses of fine wine. The air was thick with smugness and self-importance, as the power brokers of the Russian Empire celebrated in quiet confidence. The gathering was to commemorate a new chapter in Russia's ongoing campaign, a celebration of their so-called inevitable victory. To them, the war seemed far from their minds here in the safety of their private retreat. Far from the front lines, they were untouchable. But unbeknownst to them, in the shadows, a much darker storm was brewing. Thousands of miles away, deep inside a Ukrainian command bunker, an operation was about to unfold that would shatter that illusion of invulnerability. The air inside the bunker buzzed with quiet urgency. Ukrainian military officials stood in front of large monitors watching as the coordinates for the mission were locked in. Their target, the very same opulent fortress housing Putin and his inner circle. But this wasn't just any attack, it was a calculated, audacious move, one that would demonstrate Ukraine's shift from defense to offense. For months, Ukraine had been preparing for this moment, the moment they would not only fight back, but hit the Russians where it would hurt most. This was not just about revenge, it was about sending a message that Ukraine would no longer sit idly by, waiting for the world to notice. They would make the world pay attention. And in the Black Sea, a silent predator was closing in on its target. The Muravi-5, a highly sophisticated Ukrainian drone boat, sliced through the water with stealth. The sleek fiberglass hull of the vessel was designed with one purpose in mind: to move undetected. The Muravi-5 was carrying a payload of 6 OSA FPV drones, each one armed with a 1-pound-shaped charge, capable of obliterating the toughest of structures. These were not conventional missiles. These drones were precision instruments of destruction designed to infiltrate the heart of Russia's war machine and dismantle it from within. As the drone boat closed in on its target, the operator in Odessa keyed in the final commands. On the surface, Putin's guest house, the 40 sanatorium, seemed impenetrable. The complex was nestled against the rugged cliffs of Crimea, a highly fortified location that housed some of Russia's most important figures. But for Ukraine, this target wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. The 40 sanatorium was home to some of Russia's most powerful war criminals, the very men who orchestrated the campaigns of terror across Ukraine. The facility's location was also key. This was a place where the decisions that shaped the course of the war were made hidden away from the public eye. Destroying this place wasn't just a blow to Russian morale. It would send shockwaves throughout the Russian military and intelligence community. It would be a strike against the core of their war effort, targeting the very people who had helped bring the conflict to life. Ukraine's grain corridor, vital for survival and economic security, was also at stake. This attack could cripple Russian efforts to control critical regions, widening the path for Ukraine's crucial exports. As the Muravi-5 drew closer to the target, its onboard sensors painted a picture of the terrain ahead. The operator's eyes narrowed in concentration, watching the countdown clock tick closer to zero. At exactly 1931, the Muravi-5 reached its launch point a mere 3 miles off the coast. The bay doors of the boat opened, and the first of the 6 OSA drones slid into the water like a deadly whisper. Each drone was programmed with one mission: to destroy. The drone boat's laser guidance system locked onto the target, directing the drones with pinpoint precision as they skimmed the surface of the Black Sea. The Muravi-5 didn't move again. It melted into the night, its mission now in the hands of the drones. The OSA drones accelerated rapidly, cutting through the water with speed and precision. The night air was thick with tension as the first drone left the safety of its mothership, speeding toward its goal. The drones executed a coordinated, almost fluid set of maneuvers. The lead drone unleashed a burst of aluminum chaff into the air, a cloud of tiny metallic strips designed to scramble Russian radar. It was the perfect decoy. The chaff in the eyes of Russian radar operators looked like a massive swarm of targets. It was a nightmare scenario for anyone trying to track the real threat. Meanwhile, the remaining drones tucked in behind the decoy, following the contours of the Foros cliffs below, remaining hidden in the shadow of the rocks. They flew low, staying just above the waterline to avoid detection, popping up only for brief moments before vanishing back into the dark. It was an intricate dance of deception designed to confuse, misdirect, and outwit the Russian defense systems. As the swarm of drones moved closer to the coast, a sudden and unexpected twist sent ripples through the operation. A brutal 20-knot wind gust slammed into the formation, throwing drone number 3 into chaos. The wind hit the drone hard, causing it to sway violently. Its antenna, already weakened, snapped, and the drone's stability was compromised. The AI in the drone fought desperately to regain control, but the violent gusts and the instability of the drone made every second count. The operator in Odessa watched helplessly as the drone's flight path veered off course. He cursed under his breath, his hands shaking as he attempted to regain control through the system's emergency override. He was miles away, flying blind, struggling to manage a machine now being battered by nature itself. The entire mission now hung in the balance. In the distance along the rocky coastline, a Russian Spetsnaz soldier was watching through a thermal scope. He had been scanning the cliffs looking for any sign of movement when suddenly he spotted it, a flicker of heat. It was fast, too fast to be a natural object, and in an instant, he locked onto the target. His heart raced as he raised his specialized drone-killing rifle, aimed and fired. A beam of focused electromagnetic energy shot from the weapon, targeting the drone that had been caught in the windstorm. The drone exploded in a shower of sparks, its mission undone. The Spetsnaz operator radioed in his success, confident that he had just eliminated the threat. But he didn't know that his victory was hollow. The real swarm, the 5 remaining drones, had already passed him by, slipping silently through the night like ghosts in the dark. The victory was fleeting, and the true battle was just beginning. The drones were executing their perfect dance when disaster struck. A brutal 20-knot wind gust swept through the area, a violent force that slammed into drone number 3 with devastating results. The damaged antenna started to malfunction, the drone swaying uncontrollably like a horse bucking its rider. The artificial intelligence within the drone fought to regain balance, but the storm's intensity made every moment a struggle for control. Back in Odessa, the Ukrainian operator's heart raced. Sweat dripped from his brow as he desperately tried to stabilize the drone, all while his screen flickered with static from the overwhelming storm. Meanwhile, on the cliffside, a Russian Spetsnaz operator peered through his $10,000 thermal scope, scanning the dark horizon. In an instant, a hot signature appeared too quick to miss. The Spetsnaz soldier raised his rifle and fired a focused electromagnetic pulse, sending the decoy drone into a fiery explosion. A victory, he thought as he radioed in his kill. What he failed to realize was that the real swarm, the remaining 5 drones, had already moved beyond his sight, slipping past him undetected. The radio call that celebrated victory in one moment would soon become the harbinger of defeat. The Russians, still unaware of the true threat, were about to fall into a trap of their own making. A radar screen at a Panzer S-1 battery near Yalta lit up like a Christmas tree. The operators saw a single large target moving at 60 mph and immediately identified it as an enemy. Without hesitation, they launched a multi-million-dollar surface-to-air missile. The operator in Odessa, however, wasn't worried. He was watching as the missile locked onto the decoy cloud of aluminum chaff. He smiled, muttering to himself, "Go ahead, waste your money." The missile streaked through the night sky, hitting the decoy cloud with incredible force. The chaff exploded in a burst of light, vaporizing into nothingness. The Russians were convinced they had struck their target, but the Ukrainian operator knew better. The real attack was still on course. Meanwhile, the Mura V5, hidden miles offshore, performed its next act in the drama. It began transmitting a fake electronic signature, mimicking the presence of a much larger vessel. Russian radar operators focused on the false signal, diverted their attention chasing the shadow, while the real swarm of drones closed in on the objective. But the deception wasn't over yet. As the Russian air defense systems were scrambling to target the false signals, a Russian fighter jet, an Su-30, took off from a nearby airfield. The jet's afterburners illuminated the night sky as it shot into the air faster than the speed of sound. It was designed for one purpose: to neutralize any airborne threat. The pilot's mission was simple: find and destroy. But when the pilot locked onto the drones, things became anything but simple. The drones split into 2 groups, Two dropped lower, becoming nearly invisible, while the others climbed higher, putting themselves at different altitudes. The Russian pilot faced an impossible geometry problem. He had multiple targets, each at different altitudes, converging toward the same point. The pilot's frustration grew as he realized he couldn't engage them all. Frustrated by the elusive drones, the Russian forces deployed a massive electronic warfare blanket, a signal-jamming attack that engulfed the battlefield. The Ukrainian drones momentarily lost contact with their operators, static filling the airwaves. But the OSA drones were built to withstand. The onboard AI ignored the electronic storm, navigating purely by its gyroscopes, guided by physics rather than signals. The drones had been designed for this exact situation. Still, the fight was far from over. On the ground, Russian Spetsnaz teams stood ready. They set up kinetic nets and fired thermal-guided machine guns into the air, targeting the drones one by one. The OSA drones weaved and dodged, but one of them took a hit. It exploded in a flash of fire, disappearing into the dark sea below. But even as one drone fell, the others pressed on. The operator in Odessa wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes fixed on the countdown. "Hold steady," he muttered, gripping the controls. The final seconds ticked by and the drones reached the critical moment. As the Russian defenses raged around them, the OSA drones initiated their final move. One drone switched its electronic signature, mimicking a civilian plane. Its flight path was set on a collision course with a local school, creating a dilemma for the Russian commanders. If they fired, they risked shooting down a civilian aircraft and causing an international incident. If they hesitated, they would lose their chance to stop the attack. In that critical moment of indecision, Ukraine's drones slipped through the chaos, undetected and ready to strike. The moment had arrived. The Russian air defense systems, paralyzed by the false threat of a civilian plane, froze. The drones, now in position, closed in on the 40 sanatorium, the very heart of Russia's power in Crimea. The final leg of the mission was upon them. The Panzer S-1 system came to life, its 30mm cannons opening fire in a desperate attempt to stop the incoming drones. A wall of steel erupted into the air as the sky filled with explosive shells designed to shred anything in their path. But the 4 OSA drones didn't try to evade the firestorm. They didn't scatter or dive for cover. Instead, they converged on their single point of attack. The lead drone locked its targeting system onto the heat signature of the banquet hall, the heart of the event. The operator in Odessa, calm and collected, issued the command. Fox 3 released the payload. The drones released their warheads and 4 1.5-pound shaped charges plunged toward their target. The first explosion hit the glass roof of the banquet hall, not just shattering it, but vaporizing it into a flash of light. The force of the blast was equivalent to being hit by a pickup truck at highway speed. The shaped charge's copper lining turned into a superheated jet of molten metal, which pierced through the building's floor like a lightning strike. The blast set off a chain reaction, rupturing gas lines and causing a massive fireball that blew apart the building's western wall. A second explosion obliterated the garage, sending a $750,000 armored Mercedes into a column of fire. The final warhead struck the secret war planning room, everything inside reduced to ash. As the electromagnetic pulse from the blast fried the local radar systems, the Crimean coast descended into total blackout. By dawn, the once mighty guest house lay in ruins. The $50 million structure was nothing more than a jagged scar on the coastline. Russia's war plans were obliterated. Their Black Sea fleet was forced to retreat, and Ukraine's grain corridor was now 20% safer. The Ukrainian operator, watching the satellite feed from his bunker, smiled a small, satisfied smile. The message was clear: no empire, no matter how mighty, can stand forever. The biggest wolf can fall, brought down by the smallest arrow aimed true. Ukraine's ghost chain, born from the front lines of a brutal war, had turned the tide.